Hopefully my paper should follow on quite naturally from the two preceding ones. I'm going to focus in a little bit on one particular policy, which is Xinjiang specific, which is the National Partner Assistance Programme, which was conceived in 2010. In 2010, there was a central Chinese Communist Party work conference held called the Xinjiang Work Forum in Beijing, and this was the first top-level development conference on Xinjiang since 1949. The timing of it, I think, is not coincidental, following very swiftly on the heels of the 2009 Urumqi riots. And it was at this meeting that these support policies in the form of the Partner Assistance Programme were unveiled. So the purported aim of the Partner Assistance Programme is to build the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region into a moderately well-off society, a phrase we've heard many times in recent years, within the next 10 years. Vice Premier Li Keqiang said that the region was the region's development and stability were at a critical moment. And these two terms, development and stability, two sides of the coin, came up a lot in the media in the following days. So Hu Jintao said, Hu Jintao was focusing more on development, I think, than stability at the time, which I think is quite indicative of his general attitude after he came to power. He said we must improve the people's living standards and build an eco-friendly environment, but at the same time we have to ensure ethnic unity and stability. He also talked about improving public services, which I'll come back to later, and the need to provide the local people with a modern and civilized living environment. Connotations of civilization aside, I think that his outlook was one of the more positive ones at the time. Xinhua, on the other side, was very much focusing on stability rather than development. It wrote in its magazine that the Partner Assistance Programme was essential to long-term stability and order. And Zhou Yongkan from the CCP Politburo at the time said we must attach equal importance to economic development and social stability and crack down on the three evil forces that we just heard about in Mr. Qian's presentation there. So, according to Beijing Review, writing in June 2010, this 10-year partner assistance program would power up the growth engine of Xinjiang. Hao Shiyuan mentioned before, both speakers actually, I think, said that this should be an all-embracing blueprint for Xinjiang's future. It would play a significant role in boosting the region's development, but also the border area's security. So again, the emphasis on security there. But interestingly, despite this focus on development, the Beijing Review carried lots of pictures of very happy-looking Uyghurs enjoying bumper harvests and looking very prosperous and joyful there. So slightly contradictory sort of images. The programme itself has been running since 1996, in fact, but it was accelerated enormously and hugely in the aftermath of 2009. So now 19 coastal and central economies, big economies in China proper, were going to be matched to the most impoverished areas in Xinjiang, so Hotan and Kashgar. They would send between 0.3 and 0.6% of their yearly fiscal revenue to Xinjiang between 2011 and 2020. And in 2011 alone, Xinjiang was supposed to be receiving some 10 billion yuan in economic aid from these 19 partners. However, if you look down the list, I haven't got a slide with the list on, I don't have a separate document which I haven't brought. But if you look down the list of the 19 partners, a lot of these twinning partnerships are linking places in China proper directly to Xinjiang production and construction farms in Xinjiang, which, as we know, are completely monopolized by Han paramilitary / pioneer employees and have very few Uyghur employees working for them. And that in itself rings alarm bells straight away. So the local reactions at first were very cautious, not surprisingly. Joanne, who was the CCP, the party prefectural, the CCP secretary of the prefectural committee in Hotel at the time, said, well, it's the first time that the government quantified targets for assistance, so that's a good thing. Quantifying the money they're going to give us, and also allocating aid to county-level administrations could help us gain an edge in targeting the unique problems that constrain development in those regions. Ashar Tursun, president of Xinjiang University of Finance and Economics, said something very important, I think. Economic development and improving livelihoods, these are key things for maintaining stability, because people are unlikely to be manipulated by terrorists or separatists when they are happy. Okay, absolutely crucial, I think. Trouble is, who is the development for? This is where the problems begin, I think. So, what are the support policies, so-called? Well, resource-related reforms include more local tax revenue from resources. So taxes on natural gas and oil will be raised, will be quintupled, in fact. Anti-Fu at Roman University, the People's University in Beijing, said, yes, this is a good policy, it will surely increase local fiscal revenue. Tang Yigai of the dubious advisory group to the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region noted that local tax revenue as a result will increase by 10 billion yuan per year. In addition to this, local people will have increased local use of the resources. So a lot of the resources will, not a lot, but some of the resources will stay in Xinjiang rather than disappearing off to the eastern pipelines, as has been the case previously. However, at the same time as doing these relatively positive things, what's also been happening since 2010 is that the state has massively accelerated the extraction itself. So what we're seeing, you can see it in what Lei Yao says here from People's Bank of China, Zhongguo Yinhang, revamping the resource tax can enhance local financial strength. Okay, all well and good. But a more reasonable mechanism for resource utilization, extraction, may transfer resource advantages into industrial advantages. China Daily said that Xinjiang would now become an international energy hub for energy trade and cooperation, but as we're all very aware in this room, I think the resource extraction industry in Xinjiang has for a very long time been dominated by Han employees, almost 100% Han employees. So Lei Yao, again, giving the game away rather now, says partner assistance will help to increase the efficiency of resource development, allocation and utilisation throughout the whole country. And this is where the truth comes out. So, second arm of policy, new policy, preferential tax policies and jobs creation. So there will be preferential policies for companies around land use and finance. Qualifying enterprises, I wonder who the qualifying enterprises are, in the poor regions will be exempt from income tax for 2 years, after which there will be a 50% reduction for the next 3 years, so 5 years worth of preferential tax breaks. Again, Tang Yigai says this is conducive to promoting the development of private companies and to improving the investment environment and increasing the income of Xinjiang residents. And here, of course, immediately I think of the term Xinjiang Ren, and as Ariane has very aptly pointed out, Xinjiang Ren now is this umbrella term which means everybody in Xinjiang, including, most importantly, the Han migrants. And this policy will also be conducive to increasing job opportunities. So in particular, Shandong companies have been getting involved in this. 24.6 billion yuan in funding coming in from Shandong. But who is benefiting? Who is benefiting from the preferential tax breaks and the Han company investments? I borrow this image among several images I borrow actually from Henry's excellent UHRP report. I don't know if he's in here still. There he is. You'll recognise your image. As you can see very clearly, those of you who read Chinese in this poster, 以上招聘显汉族. Yeah, so the above job advertisement is limited to ethnic Han applicants. Okay. And if you look through the media reports dating from 2012 about this Shandong-Kashgar pairing, twinning, all of the business owners who are interviewed in those reports, who are setting up new businesses in Kashgar, they are all Han. They are all ethnic Han business owners, business managers. Am I doing the time?
I'm being lulled into a false sense of people being so good. Don't get it. So please don't take on that. Have 7 minutes.
No, I've lost myself. I'll go back.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
No, it was me. I confused myself. All right, so another case study, Zhongkun Travel Group, again a business group in China proper. They reserved 3,000 acres of land in southern Xinjiang. The land thing is very important, it will come up again later. And as a result of their doing this, the price of the land inflated very, very rapidly. Because of people anticipating the creation of a new special economic zone. So the deputy chairman of Zhongkun Group said the local house prices were increasing continuously between February and July in 2010, and the price of land went up from 2,000 to 3,000 yuan per square metre in those few months alone. As a result, what's happening, local Uyghurs in Hotan and Kashgar are selling their land. Okay, I'll come back to that. Oh, wait, I'll talk about it now. I forgot I'd moved that there. Right. So in Chengdu in 2013, I'm in Chengdu visiting my students who are in Chengdu learning Chinese, and I'm checking that everything is okay with them. And of course, I stumble straight across a Uyghur restaurant, which is literally 30 seconds walk from my hotel, and I meet this lovely group of guys here. They are from Hotan. They were talking to me about what is happening in Hotan in the wake of the partner assistance program, and essentially they were talking about people selling their land, people making lots of money out of the Chinese, but they were not seeing the sort of greater ramifications of what that would mean, what selling their land would mean. Rachel, in one of her articles, talks about a song by a political Uyghur singer which exhorts Uyghurs not to sell their land, to Han incomers. So they were talking about a lot of local people selling their land, but at the same time they were saying, we left Hotan because we couldn't make money there. So they're not benefiting apparently from the jobs creation that's going on in Hotan. They have come to China proper. They are making lots of money out of selling kebabs, essentially, and pulao and naan and so on in Chengdu. And they said they could make 5 times as much money by doing this in Chengdu than they could back in Xinjiang. But they also added at the end of our conversation, but we'll be going back soon because there are so many hands in Hotan now that we can charge the same money there too. So they were thinking about going back fairly soon. I just hope they have some land to move back onto. Housing I won't talk about because Mike's already talked a lot about housing, and obviously the biggest example of housing and redevelopment and the ramifications of that has been in Kashgar. Education. 80 billion yuan has been pledged as part of these support policies to improve educational infrastructure within 5 years. Essentially what this means in practice is a deepening of the monolingual education policy, which is hilariously called the Shongyu Jiaoyu campaign policy, the bilingual education policy. Of course, it's not bilingual at all. What it means is you have to speak Chinese at work and at school, and yes, you're allowed to speak Uyghur when you go home. And finally, infrastructure. Wei Ho Kai from the Institute for Urban and Environmental Studies at CAS talked about daunting challenges in many areas, including in infrastructure. And this has meant that infrastructure has been rapidly accelerated as well, new infrastructure. So the Urumqi-Kashgar Railway was extended to full 10, as we know, in 2011. We've got new railway connections that link China with Pakistan and Kyrgyzstan. And we've also got a new flights going to Kashgar from Beijing, Guangzhou and Hong Kong. So, my concerns. Resource tax reforms, I think I've already said this one. Yes, the local tax revenue has multiplied by 5, but at the same time, investment in extraction has increased massively. So they're giving more, the state is giving more back in tax to the local people, to the local government, and it's increasing local utilisation of the resources, but it's also taking the resources away at a much faster speed. You know, and there was a little voice in my head when I was thinking about this that said, are they doing that because they want to get all the resources out before things really go pear-shaped, before things really go badly wrong in Xinjiang? That's just a little voice which I had to ignore for now. Obviously housing, we've already talked about, we've already heard Mike and people talking about traditional communities being destroyed, the fabric of social life being destroyed. So again, I won't go on that. I won't go to say too much about that, other than to say that Shandong brick and cement companies, Shandong again, are benefiting massively from the demolitions. Infrastructure. So I'm going to end on infrastructure. Hand migration follows transportation lines, we know. Obviously, new flights to Kashgar are going to make it easier for more hand migrants to move to Kashgar and on to Hoten. Similarly, the extended railway line to Hoten. It also means that natural resources can go out faster, and as we know, in-migration has long been the root cause of employment discrimination, because the more hand migrants we have, the more hand migrants coming to Xinjiang, the more competition for jobs, and the less likely it is that local Uyghurs are going to get those jobs, particularly when all the people coming in and opening up businesses are ethnic Han. So on to the Beijing subway bans, which horrified me in 2012. I was on the subway, again visiting my students in Beijing, and I found these ads, which are quite horrible. Did you see these? Big kind of ads across the top of above the windows of Beijing subways, showing lots of pictures of Xinjiang, strangely devoid of people. This is important. Strangely devoid of people. Camels, yes. Sand, yes. Blue skies, beautiful green pastures. There's some beautiful green pastures. No people there, notice, very important. And when you get down to the small print, very interesting. I couldn't get close enough with my camera. I was leaning over people to try and take this photograph. If you get down to the small print here, this phone number is directly to the local Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps. Okay, so this is selling Hoten to would-be migrants in Beijing. Look, here is some land without people in, land waiting to be conquered, virgin, and terror. Yes, come, as in the song Lai Lai Lai. And you know, you can set up a wonderful new life for yourself, get away from the overpopulated East, etc., etc. Just phone us up and we'll do you a deal, essentially. I couldn't help but be reminded of Daolan at this point. I've just finished writing an article about Daolan, who is a Han migrant. He's from Sichuan, he's a Han migrant to Urumqi. He moved to Urumqi. He produced a lot of fusion music, which was basically mando pop fused with, supposedly fused with local Uyghur instrumentation, and presented himself as a Xin Xinjiangren. Okay, so he said, 我是 Xin Xinjiangren, and the local media presented him as a new Xinjiang person as well. And in all of his pictures, in all of his marketing, in all of his CD packaging, this is what you see. Daolan sitting in an empty desert landscape. And if you look at the acknowledgements on his CD covers, although he claims to be producing fusion that sort of symbolises the unity of the peoples in Xinjiang, I've yet to find an ethnic Uyghur musician credited on his CD covers. I found a Mongol, one Mongol, no Uyghurs. So, I'll end very quickly, sorry, by saying, pointing out that there was no Uyghur present at the Xinjiang Work Forum in Beijing in 2010, which I find absolutely astounding. Absolutely astounding. How can you hold a development conference in the wake of a serious ethnic riot without inviting not one single local representative? What we had instead were representatives from the Bingtuan, from the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, from the PLA, and from the People's Armed Police. What does this tell us about the development versus security conundrum? So no local participation equals, in my mind, no trust at all between these two groups of people. So rather than ending with conclusions, some questions, because obviously this is a new policy, it's still ongoing. Looking at the experience of the Chengdu migrants, the Uyghur migrants in Chengdu, I couldn't help thinking, to what degree? I mean, is this an unforeseen consequence that people are selling their land and moving out, or did the state actually foresee that this might happen? Who knows? I don't know. To what degree then are the state deliberately hoping to drive Uyghurs east while moving their hands west? And when we think about that, we think also about the Xinjiang Ban study program, which of course is transporting young Uyghurs east to be educated in China proper in the hope that they will be redeveloped as patriotic citizens. And is it, and this is perhaps the most controversial question, but one that's been on my mind a lot, particularly after I read a manuscript by Tom Cliff recently. Tom Cliff is about to produce an astounding book. He's at Australian National University. He is suggesting that all of the current policies about Xinjiang are directed not at consoling, not at placating the Uyghur population, but at placating the local Han migrant population. And I can't help but wonder whether he's right, thinking about his thesis in the light of what I'm looking at here. Is it easier for the state to suppress and displace the Uyghur minority out of Xinjiang than to demote the privileged status of the Xinjiang Han? Will there be more trouble if they don't look after the Xinjiang Han than if they look after than the opposite? So the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps were urged after 2009, in 2010, at the Work Forum to take advantage of historical opportunities. So what does that mean? You know, is this an attempt to frame the 2009 Urumqi riots as a justification for this huge shift towards securitization, this huge shift towards this huge acceleration of demographic shift? And finally, how likely is it that Xinjiang is going to become the new inner Mongolia in the context of this policy?